Hello, I'm Marty Sweeney. I've been a pastor of a church, and I continue to work with pastors of churches all across North America. Most of the questions I get from pastors are in some form an expression of one key question: how do I change the culture of my church? Well, our view here at Matthias Media is that there are two basic ways people try to change a church culture. You can run as many people as possible through your programs and courses and hope for the best. Or you can work individually and with small pockets of people to change the culture. The latter is slow and sometimes inefficient, but it tends to be the surest way to see a lasting difference in attitudes and direction. So, do you want to change the culture of your congregation or small group? Rather than feeding ministry consumerism, do you want a group of people with their hearts and minds turned towards love and personal encouragement? Do you want more people reading the Bible with each other? Do you want more people really welcoming that newcomer? The solution is simple: run a course. After all, these transformations are some of the goals of the 6 steps to encouragement Matthias Media produces. Wait a minute, I hear you say. Aren't you guys the ones who wrote The Trellis and the Vine? Didn't you spend most of the book convincing me that church is not about courses and programs? Didn't I hear at one of those workshops that the key is not to put people through more stuff? In fact, it's written right here on page 18. I tell my friend, but you've forgotten about page 163. It says to run some training courses. Now, proof texting from The Trellis and the Vine is not a wise way to build an argument for ministry strategy. Instead, let me explain the difference between running 6 steps to encouragement and training with 6 steps to encouragement. Or, to put it another way, the difference between a trellis way of running a course and a vine way of running a course. Perhaps a personal story will illustrate. I was young and new in full-time ministry, ready to take on the world and excited to change my church's culture. As an avid supporter of all things Matthias Media, I could not wait until the brand new 6 Steps to Encouragement course showed up at the church. After all, the course had components of Bible study and practical training, just the things to get our people changed. Fast forward 6 weeks, and the course was finished. I had to cut a few corners to fit it into the time available and to allow for a larger class. I also didn't really push the participants hard on the homework, getting people to read the Bible together. In fact, I didn't follow through on my own homework. But I ran the course and they were trained. They now had great biblical and practical insight to flesh out the course motto: God's Word changes us, and through us it can change others too. I was then off to teach Romans. A year later, I evaluated where our church was at. I realized we'd made no real progress and that our culture hadn't changed. Our people still needed growth in the same areas. It must have been the course, I thought. I was then off to find the next big thing in ministry resources. That is an excellent example of a trellis way to run a course. A 6-week whirlwind of lessons and then off to the next thing. A few years later, I ran the course again. By this time, I had been pushed to rethink ministry by Philip Jensen through his talks on ministry, Colin Marshall in his Growth Groups book, Tony Payne through the Preparing Just for Starters guide, and Peter Bolt in that helpful little mission-minded book. I had a completely different outlook on what I was trying to do and what biblical ministry was all about. First, I realized it was just a course. Mind you, an excellent one. The course itself cannot and will never train up people and change a culture. What is required is a leader who understands that the point of the group is the people and their maturity as Christians. The other thing I did differently with this group is that I really pushed hard on the homework, the one-to-one Bible reading. If God's Word changes us, then we need to be in God's Word more than just during the class. I even volunteered to meet with some of the people to be their homework partner. By the end of the course, I had read or was reading the Bible with most of the participants. And this required me to keep the group size to a minimum. We also took the long view approach. Yes, we took longer than the 6 weeks to finish up the course, pausing and discussing important issues, raising other ones, practicing our welcoming. But it was more than just taking extra time on the course. We set goals for the whole year. We promised to read the Bible with someone else after the class was finished. We really put our minds on acting on the ideas and suggestions. So even when the course was finished, it still fueled our conversations. We even revisited a few lessons later that year. The Vine way to run 6 steps to encouragement is, in a way, simple. It is to focus on the people while running the course, knowing where they're up to, where their roadblocks are at, and most importantly, keeping them in God's Word. As with any of our resources, you can look at our website to find out more information, view video clips, and download sample studies of these courses, or call our office with any questions or to ask for further suggestions.